The silver ship moved through space like a ghost. Its hull reflected the stars as it drifted closer to the small blue planet. Inside the ship, Captain Vextal studied the strange world on his viewing screen. His four eyes blinked in sequence as data flowed across the display. "This species calls themselves humans," his science officer reported. The alien's voice sounded like wind through metal pipes. "They have only one planet. Their technology is very basic." Vextal nodded his triangular head. The Zephyrian Confederation had explored this part of space for 300 years. They had found many worlds with life. Most species were peaceful once they understood the Confederation's power. But these humans seemed different. The captain watched recordings of human behavior. Wars covered their history like scars. They fought each other over land, resources, and ideas. Even now, their planet showed signs of recent conflicts. Military bases dotted every continent. Weapons filled their cities. "They are dangerous," Vextal decided. "Look at their wars. See how they destroy their own kind. What will they do to others when they reach the stars?" His crew agreed. The Confederation had learned hard lessons about aggressive species. It was better to stop threats before they could spread. The galaxy needed peace, not more violence. Down on Earth, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the deck of the USS Constitution. The massive aircraft carrier cut through Pacific waters during the largest military exercise in human history. Ships from under 20 nations spread across the ocean like a steel city. Jets roared overhead in perfect formations. Morrison had gray hair and tired eyes. He had seen 3 wars in his 40-year career. Now he hoped this show of cooperation would prevent future conflicts. The exercise was called Unity Shield. It was meant to prove that humans could work together. "Admiral, radar is picking up something strange," a young officer reported. Morrison looked at the screens. Nothing showed up on his displays. "What kind of strange?" "High-altitude contacts, moving too fast to be aircraft, too small to be meteors." Before Morrison could respond, the sky lit up. Beams of blue light fell from space like lightning. They struck the naval base at Pearl Harbor first. The ancient memorial to another surprise attack vanished in seconds. Then the beams moved to other targets. Colonel Lisa Baker sat deep inside NORAD, the underground command center that watched North America's skies. Alarms screamed as her screens filled with impossible readings. Energy weapons were hitting military bases across the continent. The attacks came from orbit, but her satellites showed nothing there. "This can't be real," she whispered. But the destruction was very real. Cheyenne Mountain, home to NORAD itself, shook as alien weapons tried to break through the rock above. The attacks lasted exactly 17 minutes. When they stopped, every major military base in the world was gone. Ships burned in harbors. Airfields were craters. Command centers lay in ruins. Dr. Alan Price stood on the roof of MIT watching Boston burn. The physicist held instruments that measured the alien energy. His equipment showed readings that made no sense. The weapons used controlled fusion, but in ways human science could not explain. "We're not alone," he said to himself. And they just declared war. Admiral Morrison survived because the Constitution was at sea when the attack began. He watched alien ships drop from the sky like falling stars. They were beautiful and terrible. Their hulls seemed to shift color with the light. Each ship was the size of a small city. The alien ships took positions over major population centers. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, 48 cities around. The world found themselves under alien shadows. The ships just floated there, silent and threatening. Then came the message. It reached every radio, every television, every communication device on Earth. The voice spoke in perfect English, but also in Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, and every other human language at the same time. "People of Earth," the voice said. "We are the Zephyrian Confederation. You have been evaluated and found dangerous. Your aggressive nature threatens galactic peace. We have disabled your military forces for your own protection." Colonel Baker listened from her damaged command center. Half her staff was dead. The other half worked frantically to restore communications with the outside world. You will submit to Confederation oversight, the alien voice continued. We will guide your development. We will teach you to live in peace. Resistance will result in complete sterilization of your planet. You have 24 hours to surrender your governments. The message ended. Earth fell silent except for the sound of sirens and the crackle of fires. Dr. Price saved his readings on a hidden drive. Something told him this information would be important later. The aliens had made their weapons from the same atoms as everything else in the universe. If humans could understand the science, they could copy it. Morrison gathered his surviving officers aboard the Constitution. The carrier was damaged but still functional. Around the world, other military units reported similar status. The aliens had destroyed the big targets but missed smaller ones. They think we're finished, Morrison said. They think one attack will make us quit. His officers looked at the burning coastline. The aliens had killed hundreds of thousands of people in minutes. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything human. What do we do, Admiral? Someone asked. Morrison. S jaw tightened. His grandfather had fought in World War II. His father had served in Vietnam. Every generation of his family had faced impossible odds. We do what humans always do, he said. We adapt, we survive, and we fight back. The alien ships hung in Earth's sky like dark promises. Inside their hulls, Zephyrian officers celebrated another successful pacification. They had done this 17 times before with other species. None had ever resisted after the first demonstration of power. But none of those species had been human. Captain Vextal reviewed the mission reports. All primary targets destroyed. Minimal casualties among Confederation forces. The humans would surrender soon. Then the real work would begin. They would be relocated, educated, and integrated into the Confederation. Like all the others. The captain had no way of knowing that he had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. He had given humanity something they had never had before. A common enemy. And humans, when truly threatened, became something the galaxy had never seen. 6 months had passed since the sky burned. The world above ground belonged to the aliens now. Their floating cities cast shadows over human settlements. Zephyrian soldiers walked through the ruins of civilization, believing they had won. They were wrong. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Frank Stone studied maps of a world in hiding. The underground complex stretched for miles through natural caves and man-made tunnels. Thousands of people lived and worked in the artificial light, preparing for a war the aliens thought was over. Stone was a tall man with scars on his hands and fire in his eyes. He had lost his family in the first attack. Now he lived for one purpose: making the aliens pay for their mistake. Report, he said to the woman entering his command room. Engineer Maya Rodriguez looked tired but excited. She carried a weapon that hummed with blue energy, the same blue energy the aliens used. It works, she said simply. We can make their weapons now. Maya had spent months studying pieces of crashed alien fighters. Her team of engineers and scientists worked in secret workshops taking apart alien technology like children with broken toys. But these children were brilliant, and they were angry. The weapon in her hands looked human, but felt alien. Human engineering had made it stronger. Human creativity had made it better. The aliens built machines that worked perfectly. Humans built machines that could be improved. How many can we make? Stone asked. Give me more crashed ships and I'll arm every resistance fighter on the planet, Maya replied. Across the underground base, Dr. Kevin White worked in his laboratory. The physicist was thin and pale from months without sunlight. His hands shook with exhaustion, but his mind remained sharp. He had solved problems the aliens never knew they had. Kevin held up a sheet of metal that seemed to bend light around itself. When alien plasma hit it, the energy scattered like water off a duck's back. The material was made from Earth elements arranged in patterns the aliens had never imagined. They build everything the same way, Kevin explained to his assistant. Same materials, same methods for thousands of years. They don't experiment, they don't try new things, that's their weakness. Above ground, Captain Tony Garcia led a patrol through the ruins of Denver. His squad moved like ghosts between the broken buildings. They wore armor made from alien materials and carried weapons that hummed with stolen energy. Tony was young, maybe 25, but the war had aged him. He had learned to fight an enemy that came from the stars. His tactics came from studying how the aliens moved, how they thought, how they made mistakes. The patrol stopped at a burned-out store. Through his enhanced goggles, Tony could see alien heat signatures 3 blocks away. A patrol of 6 Zephyrian soldiers walked their regular route. They always took the same path at the same time. Aliens loved routine. Tony S squad had been watching for weeks. Today the routine would be broken. The ambush lasted 30 seconds. Alien weapons were powerful, but they were designed to fight other aliens. Human tactics were something new. Tony's people hit from 6 directions at once. They used smoke and noise to confuse alien sensors. When the shooting stopped, 6 aliens were dead and their weapons were captured. Command, this is Ghost Unit. Tony spoke into his radio. Package secured. Coming home. The underground base celebrated each small victory. Every captured weapon, every dead alien, every successful mission proved that humans could fight back. The resistance grew stronger with each passing day. Sergeant Claire Davis led a different kind of mission. She was small and fast, able to move through alien bases like a shadow. Her job was to steal information, not weapons. What she learned changed everything. Claire stood in the darkness outside an alien command post. The base was built inside what used to be the Denver Convention Center. Alien technology had turned it into a fortress of metal and energy. But human determination had found a way inside. She crawled through air vents designed for human buildings. The aliens had never thought to change them. They didn't understand human architecture, just as they didn't understand human nature. In the command center, Claire attached devices to alien computers. The technology came from Dr. Price's research. Human programmers had learned to speak the alien digital language. They could read Zephyrian files and steal Zephyrian secrets. What Claire's devices discovered made her blood run cold. The aliens had done this before. 17 other species had been pacified just like humanity. Those species now served the Confederation as slaves in all but name. Their homeworlds had been turned into factories and farms. But the files revealed something else, something the aliens didn't expect. The other species had given up quickly. Most surrendered within days of the first attack. None had fought back for more than a few weeks. Humans had been fighting for 6 months and were getting stronger. Claire escaped the base with information that would change the war. In the underground command center, she showed General Stone what she had learned. "They've never faced anything like us," she said. "Every other species they conquered gave up fast. They don't know how to fight a long war against people who refuse to quit." Stone studied the files on 17 dead civilizations. Each one had been advanced, peaceful, and unprepared for alien aggression. Each one had tried to negotiate, tried to find a peaceful solution. Each one had failed. "What makes us different?" Stone asked. Maya Rodriguez looked up from her workbench, where she was building another impossible weapon. "We're crazy," she said with a grin. "We fight wars we can't win. We never give up, even when we should." In the deepest part of the underground base, construction crews worked around the clock on humanity's biggest secret. Operation Prometheus was building something the aliens would never expect: a space fleet. The ships looked nothing like human designs from before the war. They were built with alien materials but designed with human thinking. They were fast, deadly, and most importantly, they could reach the stars. Commander Bill Patterson supervised the construction. He was an old submarine officer who understood the patience needed for long missions. His ships were being built to fight a war that might last years. "How long until the first ship is ready?" Stone asked during his daily inspection. 2 more months for the prototype," Patterson replied. "If it works, we can have a dozen ships ready in a year." "The aliens won't wait a year," Stone said. "Then we better hope they keep underestimating us," Patterson said. Captain Vextal stood in his command ship above Earth, reading reports that made no sense. Human resistance was supposed to be ending. Instead, it was growing stronger. Alien. Patrols were being attacked. Bases were being infiltrated. Equipment was being stolen. "How is this possible?" he asked his officers. "We destroyed their military. We control their cities. What more can they do?" His tactical officer was nervous. "Sir, the humans don't fight like other species. They don't have a central command we can destroy. They work in small groups. When we kill their leaders, new ones appear." Vextal studied images of human attacks. The tactics were crude, but effective. More importantly, they were constantly changing. Just when Confederation forces learned to counter one approach, the humans tried something new. They're learning, Vextal realized. Every battle teaches them something new about how we fight. The captain made a decision that would prove fatal. Instead of asking for reinforcements, he tried to solve the human problem himself. Pride and overconfidence blinded him to the truth. Humans weren't just learning to fight the Zephyrian Confederation. They were learning to beat them. In the underground base, General Stone gathered his commanders for their most important meeting. Maya's weapons were ready. Kevin's armor would protect them. Tony's tactics had been tested. Claire's intelligence pointed the way forward. "The aliens made a mistake," Stone told his people. "They think this is over. They think we're beaten. They have no idea what's coming." The resistance had grown from a few thousand survivors to a network spanning the globe. Every nation, every people, every human culture had contributed something to the fight. The aliens had tried to pacify humanity. Instead, they had united it. "When do we hit them?" Maya asked. Stone looked at the plans for Operation Prometheus. The first human warship was almost ready. When it launched, the real war would begin. "Soon," he promised. Very soon. 2 years after the aliens came, the first human warship rose from the hidden base in Montana. The ship looked like nothing Earth had ever built before. It was sleek and deadly, covered in armor that bent light and armed with weapons that could crack planets. Captain Steve Murphy stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and felt history changing around him. He was a former Navy pilot who had learned to fly among the stars. His crew was made up of the best humanity had to offer. They were ready to take the fight beyond Earth. "All stations report ready, Captain," his first officer said. Steve looked at the tactical display. 3 alien city ships floated above North America. They had been there for 2 years, symbols of human defeat. Today, they would become symbols of something else entirely. "Begin the attack," Steve ordered. The New Horizon moved like lightning, wrapped in shadow. Human stealth technology made it invisible to alien sensors. When the ship finally revealed itself, it was already too late for the Zephyrians to react. The first city ship died in seconds. Human weapons tore through alien shields, like paper. The massive structure broke apart and fell toward Earth in burning pieces. The other 2 city ships tried to fight back, but they were alone and outnumbered. More human ships appeared from hidden bases around the world. The fleet was small, only 12 vessels, but each one was a masterpiece of human engineering and alien technology. They moved with precision and struck with devastating force. General Stone watched the battle from his underground command center. On his screens, he could see alien ships burning in Earth's sky. After 2 years of hiding and planning, humanity was finally hitting back. "All city ships destroyed," reported Commander Amy Scott from her ship, the Freedom's Edge. "Alien ground. Forces are in retreat. We have air superiority." Stone allowed himself a small smile. The first phase was complete. But this was just the beginning. In space above Earth, Admiral Krindar of the Confederation fleet received reports that made his blood run cold. The human planet was supposed to be pacified. Instead, it had somehow built a fleet capable of destroying 3 city ships in minutes. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "We destroyed their technology. We scattered their people. They should be helpless." His officers had no answers. The human ships used technology that shouldn't exist. Their tactics defied everything the Confederation knew about space combat. Worst of all, they fought with a ferocity that terrified veteran warriors. Dar made an emergency call to the Confederation capital. "I need reinforcements. The humans are not defeated. They are dangerous. Back on Earth, Dr. Helen Brown worked in her new laboratory. The underground base had expanded into a massive research complex. Her team had grown from a handful of scientists to thousands of the brightest minds humanity could gather. Helen was studying alien psychology now. She had learned that Zephyrians thought in patterns. They followed rules that had worked for centuries. They couldn't adapt to unexpected situations. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming force followed by quick surrender, she explained to General Stone. They've never fought a species that gets stronger under pressure. Helen's research had produced new weapons and tactics that exploited alien weaknesses. Human fighters now moved in swarms that confused Zephyrian targeting systems. Human ships used unpredictable flight patterns that made them almost impossible to hit. Lieutenant Rick Davis led one of these swarm attacks against an alien supply convoy. His squadron of 20 small fighters surrounded a massive Zephyrian transport like angry wasps. Remember, Rick told his pilots, don't fly straight, don't follow patterns, be random, be human. The attack lasted 5 minutes. When it was over, the alien transport was debris, and Rick's entire squadron was intact. Human fighters were too small and too unpredictable for alien weapons to track. Captain Ben Tucker commanded a different kind of mission. His ship, the Silent Storm, was built for reconnaissance. It could travel faster than light and hide from any sensor. Ben's job was to find alien bases beyond Earth's solar system. What he found changed everything. Kepler-442b was a garden world 40 light-years from Earth. It had been beautiful once, covered in purple forests and silver seas. Now it was an alien fortress world, home to the regional command that controlled 7 star systems. Ben's ship recorded everything. The base was massive, protected by energy shields and defended by a fleet of warships. Most importantly, it was the command center for the occupation of Earth and 6 other worlds. General, Ben reported back to Earth, I've found their headquarters. If we can take it, we can free a lot more than just our planet. Stone studied the intelligence reports. The base on Kepler-442b controlled the entire region. Destroying it would cripple Confederation operations across dozens of worlds. How many ships would we need? He asked Captain Murphy. All of them, Steve replied. And it still might not be enough. The base has defenses that could stop a Confederation battle fleet. Maya Rodriguez had been listening to the conversation. She had an idea that was either brilliant or insane. What if we don't try to destroy the base, she asked. What if we turn it against them? Maya explained her plan. Instead of attacking the fortress directly, they would infiltrate it. Human engineers would reprogram the alien systems. The base's own weapons would be used against the Confederation fleet. It was dangerous. It was complicated. It was exactly the kind of plan that humans excelled at and aliens never expected. We'll need to get people inside the base, Stone said. I'll go, Claire Davis volunteered. The sergeant had become an expert at infiltrating alien facilities. She had trained a team of specialists who could move through enemy territory like ghosts. The mission was approved. Humanity would take the war to the aliens' home ground. Commander Amy Scott prepared her ship for the long journey to Kepler-442b. The Freedom's Edge was the most advanced vessel in the human fleet. Its engines could cross interstellar space in weeks instead of years. Its weapons could challenge any alien ship. Are you ready for this? Steve Murphy asked her before departure. Amy looked at her crew. They were young, determined, and angry. They had grown up during the occupation. They had never known peace, only resistance. We've been ready for this our whole lives, she said. The human fleet left Earth's solar system for the first time in history. 12 ships carrying the hopes and fury of an entire species. They traveled through space at speeds that would have seemed impossible just 3 years before Captain Vextal received the news in his flagship above Earth. Human ships had somehow achieved faster-than-light travel and were heading toward Confederation. Space, this is impossible, he said for the 100th time. Primitive species cannot develop such technology so quickly. His science officer had studied the human ships. Sir, their technology isn't just advanced. It's innovative. They're combining our systems with ideas we never considered. They're improving our designs. Vextal finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were learning. Every battle, every captured piece of technology, every dead alien soldier taught them something new. And humans, it seemed, were very fast learners. On Kepler 4, 142b, Claire Davis and her infiltration team prepared for the most dangerous mission in human history. They had studied the alien base for weeks through Ben Tucker's reconnaissance data. They knew every corridor, every guard post, every security system. Remember, Claire told her team, we're not just trying to win a battle, we're trying to save 7 worlds. Billions of people are counting on us. The team nodded. They had trained for 2 years for this moment. They were ready to show the galaxy what humans could do when they stopped playing defense. The battle for Kepler 442b was about to begin. When it ended, the Confederation would learn that their worst mistake wasn't just attacking humanity. It was underestimating what humans would do to protect others. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442b system. 12 ships faced a fortress that had stood unconquered for 300 years. Admiral Carol Young, now commanding the entire human space fleet, studied the tactical display with calm eyes. Carol had been a Coast Guard captain before the war. She had spent her career rescuing people from impossible situations. Now she was preparing to rescue entire worlds from alien oppression. Status report, she ordered. Captain Murphy's voice came over the communication system. All ships ready, Admiral. Infiltration team is standing by. Carol looked at the alien fortress on her main screen. It was enormous, built into the side of a mountain on the planet's surface. Energy shields covered it like a glowing bubble. Weapons platforms dotted the surrounding space like deadly flowers. Claire, are you ready? Carol asked. Sergeant Claire Davis spoke from the small stealth ship that would carry her team to the planet's surface. Ready as we'll ever be, Admiral. Give us 30 minutes to get inside, then start the fireworks. The infiltration began in silence. Claire's ship was so small and quiet that alien sensors couldn't detect it. The vessel landed in a forest 10 miles from the fortress. Claire and her team began the long, dangerous walk through alien territory. Meanwhile, the human fleet prepared for the most important battle in history. They faced odds that would have terrified any rational military commander. The alien base had more firepower than the entire human fleet combined. But humans had stopped being rational the day the aliens attacked their world. Colonel Nick Brown commanded the Marine contingent aboard the assault ships. His soldiers were volunteers from every nation on Earth. They wore armor built from alien materials and carried weapons that hummed with stolen energy. Remember what we're fighting for, Nick told his troops. Not just Earth. Every world the Confederation has enslaved. Every species they've conquered. Today we show the galaxy that freedom is worth dying for. The Marines cheered. They had trained for 3 years for this moment. They were ready to take the fight to the enemy's home. Ground. Inside the fortress, Claire and her team moved through corridors designed for alien anatomy. The passages were too wide and too tall for humans, but that made them easier to hide in. Claire's people used shadows and blind spots to avoid detection. Security checkpoint ahead, whispered her second-in-command. Corporal Dan Miller. Claire studied the alien guards through her scope. 2 Zephyrians stood at a control station, checking identification of anyone who passed. Their weapons were powerful enough to vaporize a human instantly. Sleep gas, Claire ordered. Dan activated a small device that released invisible chemicals into the air circulation system. Within minutes, the guards were unconscious. The humans moved past them like ghosts. Deep in the fortress, they found what they were looking for, the central computer core. It was a massive crystal formation that pulsed with alien energy. This system controlled the fortress defenses, the orbital weapons, and communications with the entire Confederation fleet. Maya, you're up, Claire said. Engineer Maya Rodriguez had come on the mission personally. She was the only human who truly understood alien computer systems. Her fingers moved across the crystal interface, inputting commands in the alien digital language. I'm in, she said after 10 tense minutes. Uploading the virus now. The virus was humanity's secret weapon. It had been designed by Earth's best programmers to turn alien systems against their creators. When it finished spreading through the fortress computers, the base would belong to humanity. Outside in space, Admiral Young watched her chronometer. 28 minutes had passed. Time to provide the distraction Claire's team needed. All ships, she ordered, begin the attack. The human fleet charged toward the fortress like cavalry from an ancient war. Their ships were small compared to the massive defense platforms, but they moved with deadly precision. Human pilots had learned to fight in 3 dimensions, using tactics that confused alien defenders. Captain Steve Murphy led the assault in the New Horizon. His ship twisted through space in patterns that seemed to defy physics. Alien weapons fired where they thought he would be, but Steve was always somewhere else. Target their shield generators, he ordered his weapons officer. We need to give the Marines a clear path. Human weapons struck alien defenses with surgical precision. Each shot was placed exactly where it would do the most damage. The massive shields that protected the fortress began to flicker and fail. Inside the fortress, Maya's virus reached the central control systems. Alien defense platforms suddenly turned their weapons on each other. The fortress shields collapsed completely. Most importantly, the communications array began broadcasting a signal across the galaxy. The signal reached 17 different star systems. On worlds that had been conquered by the Confederation, enslaved species heard humanity's message in their own languages. This is Admiral Carol Young of the Terran Fleet. We are humans from the planet Earth. The Zephyrian Confederation attacked our world and enslaved our people. Today we fight back. Today we show the galaxy that freedom cannot be conquered. Join us. The message was more than words. It included technical specifications for human weapons and tactics, instructions for building resistance movements. Most importantly, it carried proof that the Confederation could be defeated. On 7 different worlds, enslaved species looked up at the sky and began to hope. Captain Ray Wilson commanded the Marine landing force. His assault ships broke through the fortress defenses and landed in the alien base's central courtyard. Marines poured out, ready to fight for control of the facility. The battle was fierce but short. Alien defenders were trained to fight other aliens using predictable tactics. They had never faced human Marines who used creativity as a weapon. Sector 7 secure, reported Lieutenant Kate Adams over the radio. Alien command staff in custody. Sector 12 clear, added Sergeant Paul Garcia. Found the prison complex. We have friendlies. The prison complex held representatives from 6 different species. They were diplomats and leaders who had refused to surrender their worlds to Confederation rule. They had been prisoners for decades. One of them was an elderly alien with silver skin and multiple arms. He spoke in broken English he had learned from intercepted human broadcasts. You are humans? He asked in wonder. The species that fights the Confederation? That's right, Ray Wilson answered. And we're here to take you home. The liberation of Kepler 442b was complete within 6 hours. The fortress that had controlled 7 star systems now belonged to humanity. More importantly, it had become a beacon of hope for oppressed species across the galaxy. Admiral Young stood in the captured command center and looked at star charts showing Confederation space. Red dots marked conquered worlds, hundreds of them, stretching across thousands of light years. How many species do they control? She asked the freed prisoners. Over 60, replied the silver-skinned alien. My people have been slaves for 2 centuries. Others have been prisoners even longer. Carol studied the charts. The Confederation was vast, ancient, and powerful. It controlled resources from across the galaxy. Fighting it should have been impossible for one small species from a single world. But humans had never cared much about impossible odds. Dr. Matt Thompson arrived on the captured fortress aboard a science ship. His job was to study alien technology and turn it into weapons humanity could use. What he found exceeded his wildest expectations. Admiral, he reported excitedly, this base contains the technical specifications for every piece of Confederation technology. Ships, weapons, computers, everything. With this information, we can build a fleet that rivals theirs. The captured base also contained something else: detailed maps of every Confederation world, including their defenses and garrison strengths. Humanity now knew exactly what they were fighting. Captain Ben Tucker brought his reconnaissance ship back from a scouting mission to nearby systems. His report was encouraging. "The Confederation is in panic," he told Admiral Young. "They're pulling forces back from frontier worlds to defend their core systems. Some species are already rebelling." The news got better. 3 different species had contacted the human fleet, offering to join the fight against their Confederation oppressors. They had ships, weapons, and most importantly, they had the will to fight for their freedom. This is bigger than just Earth, now, Carol realized. We've started something that could free the entire galaxy. The Terran Alliance was born in the captured command center of Kepler 442b. Representatives from 7 species signed an agreement based on human principles of individual liberty and mutual defense. Each species would contribute what they could to the war effort. Each would fight for the freedom of all. Word of the Alliance spread across Confederation space faster than their ships could travel. On world after world, enslaved species began to organize. They built weapons from stolen technology. They planned attacks on their oppressors. They prepared for liberation. The Confederation leadership on the capital world of Zephyr Prime finally understood the magnitude of their mistake. They had tried to pacify one aggressive species and instead had awakened something terrible. Hope. Emergency. Sessions of the Confederation Council tried to find solutions. Some suggested negotiating with the humans. 5 years had passed since Captain Vextal made his terrible mistake. The galaxy burned with the fires of liberation. 43 worlds had thrown off Confederation rule. The Terran Alliance grew stronger with each passing day. Admiral Greg Nelson stood on the bridge of the massive dreadnought Terra's Wrath and watched Zephyr Prime grow larger on his screen. The Confederation capital was a beautiful world of crystal cities and floating gardens. For thousands of years, it had been the center of galactic civilization. Today, it would fall. Greg was a quiet man who had been a submarine commander before the war. He understood patience and precision. His ship was the largest vessel humanity had ever built. It carried enough firepower to crack a planet, but Greg hoped he wouldn't need to use it all. "Status report," he ordered. Captain Laura Green spoke from her command ship, Liberty's Dawn. She led the Alliance fleet that surrounded Zephyr Prime. Ships from 20 different species flew together in formations that would have been impossible just years before. "All ships in position, Admiral. The planet's defenses are active, but they're not firing. I think they want to talk." Greg nodded. The Confederation was finished as a military force. Most of their fleets had been destroyed or had switched sides. Their member species were in open revolt. The leadership knew they had lost. But humans had learned not to trust alien promises. "Open a channel to the planet," Greg ordered. The face that appeared on his screen was familiar. Supreme Chancellor Vexkoth was the leader of the Confederation Council. He was old even by alien standards, with skin like ancient leather and eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. "Admiral Nelson," the alien leader said in perfect English, "I request permission to surrender." Greg studied the alien's face. 5 years of war had taught him to read Zephyrian expressions. Vexkoth was afraid, but he was also desperate. Desperate beings sometimes did dangerous things. "Unconditional surrender?" Greg asked. "Complete dissolution of the Confederation government. All member species granted independence. All occupied worlds freed immediately." Vexkoth paused. "In exchange, we ask only that our people be allowed to live in peace on their home world." It was more than humanity had dared hope for when the war began. Complete victory without a final battle. But Greg remembered the children who had died in the first alien attack. He remembered the years of hiding and fighting and bleeding. "I need to consult with my allies," he said. The communication ended. Greg looked around his bridge at officers from 6 different species. Humans, yes, but also the silver-skinned Altarians, the insectoid vegan warriors, and others who had joined the Alliance. "What do you think?" he asked. Commander Amy Scott had been promoted to lead the Mixed Species Tactical Division. She was now Admiral Young's chief of staff, coordinating alliance operations across the galaxy. "The surrender offer is genuine," she said. "Our intelligence indicates the Confederation government is collapsing. Some member species are already declaring independence. But not everyone on the bridge was satisfied with simple surrender." Colonel Nick Brown represented the Alliance ground forces. His Marines had liberated dozens of worlds, often finding evidence of centuries of oppression and abuse. They enslaved 63 species for over 1,000 years, Nick said. "A clean surrender seems too easy." Greg understood the desire for revenge, but he also understood that the Alliance was supposed to be different from the Confederation. They fought for freedom, not conquest. "Admiral," came a voice from the communication console. "We're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's not from the government." The new signal came from somewhere in the planet's capital city. The face on the screen was younger than Vexkoth's, with the same triangular features but eyes full of determination instead of fear. "I am Subcommander Zexara of the Zephyrian Defense Force," she said. "I speak for those who refuse to surrender to alien invaders." Greg sighed. Even in defeat, some aliens couldn't accept that they had lost, to a species they considered primitive. "Subcommander, your government has already agreed to surrender. The war is over." "Not for all of us," Zexara replied. "Some of us remember when the galaxy respected Zephyrian leadership. Some of us will fight to the last breath before submitting to inferior species." The transmission ended. Greg looked at his tactical display. Energy readings showed that military installations across Zephyr Prime were powering up weapons systems. The planet's defense grid was preparing to fight. "So much for peaceful surrender," Amy Scott said. Captain Ben Tucker's reconnaissance ship had been monitoring Confederation communications for months. His latest report painted a complex picture of the enemy's final stronghold. "The planet is divided," Ben explained. "About half the population supports surrender. The other half wants to fight to the end. Their military is split the same way." Greg I made his decision. The Alliance would accept the surrender of those who offered it, but they would also deal with those who chose to fight. "Prepare for selective bombardment," he ordered. "Target only military installations that fire on our ships. Avoid civilian areas at all costs." The final battle of the Confederation War began with surprising restraint. Alliance ships engaged only the defense platforms that attacked them. Those that remained silent were left alone. Captain Laura Green led a diplomatic team to the planet's surface. Her ship landed at the capital spaceport under a flag of truce. Her job was to accept the surrender of Confederation forces. While Greg's fleet dealt with the holdouts, Laura was met by Supreme Chancellor Vexkoth himself. The old alien looked tired and defeated. Behind him stood representatives of the Confederation Council, ready to formally end their 1,000-year government. "The surrender documents are prepared," Vexkoth said. "All Confederation forces will stand down. All occupied worlds will be freed. The government will dissolve within 30 days. Laura studied the papers. They were written in both Zephyrian script and human English. Every demand the Alliance had made was accepted completely. But even as she signed the documents, explosions lit the sky above the capital. The military hardliners were still fighting Greg's fleet in orbit. "Can you stop them?" Laura asked. Vex, Koth, S. Expression was sad. "They believe they are defending our honor. They do not understand that our honor died the day we attacked your world without provocation." The fighting lasted 3 more days. It ended when Subcommander Zexara's stronghold was finally overwhelmed by Alliance forces. She died at her post, firing at human ships until the very end. Greg felt no satisfaction in the victory. Too many beings had died because of pride and stubbornness. The galaxy needed healing, not more death. The formal ceremony ending the Confederation War took place. 1 week later, representatives from over 100 species gathered in the great amphitheater that had once been the seat of alien power. Admiral Carol Young, now Supreme Commander of the Alliance, gave the speech that would be remembered for centuries. The Zephyrian Confederation made a simple mistake, she said. They confused strength with cruelty and order with oppression. They forgot that true civilization is built on consent, not conquest. Carol looked out at the assembled beings. Former enemies sat next to former slaves. Species that had fought each other for millennia were now working together to rebuild the galaxy. Today we establish new principles for galactic civilization, she continued. No species may attack another without provocation. No world may be conquered or enslaved. No being may be denied the right to determine their own destiny. The Galactic Accords were signed by every species present. They established protocols for peaceful first contact, rules for interstellar commerce, and most importantly, a mutual defense pact against any future aggression. But the ceremony's most powerful moment came when an unexpected speaker took the stage. Admiral Jake Morrison was now an old man. He had been there when the aliens first attacked Earth. He had survived the darkest days of human history and lived to see humanity become the galaxy's protector. A young alien officer asked me yesterday why humans fought so hard for species we had never met, Morrison said. The question surprised me because the answer seemed obvious. Morrison looked out at thousands of faces representing dozens of worlds. We fought because when someone hurts the innocent, they become our enemy. We fought because freedom is not negotiable. We fought because that's what humans do when faced with bullies and tyrants. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Confederation thought they were pacifying a dangerous species. Instead, they taught us that we were not alone in the galaxy. They gave us something we had never had before, a family worth protecting that spans the stars. The ceremony ended with the establishment of the Terran Alliance as the galaxy's new peacekeeping force. Humans who had once been attacked for being too aggressive were now trusted to maintain galactic peace. Captain Steve Murphy, now an admiral, was placed in command of the Alliance patrol fleet. His job was to make sure nothing like the Confederation could ever rise again. Maya Rodriguez became the Alliance's chief technology officer. Her task was to share human innovations with other species while learning from their unique perspectives. Claire Davis founded the Alliance Intelligence Service. Her networks would watch for signs of aggression or oppression anywhere in known space. The galaxy was healing, but vigilance was eternal.